If you're wondering why the topic of cutting Social Security and Medicare keep coming up, it's because we cannot balance our budget in the slightest. And we've gotten to the tipping point on our debt where if we continue down the road we're on, we are going to have hyperinflation and the dollar will be dead. So we have to pick our consequences. But the idea of cutting Social Security, don't shoot the messenger. It is just math. So we have to look at the math. We have to say, hey, what's the reality, and what are our options? But this is why I say uh, we're not going to do that. Unfortunately, like voters aren't going to do that. Like what I just said, look at the math. Not going to happen. How dare you cut my Social Security? How dare you cut my welfare? How dare you cut my Medicaid, Medicare, and all that? That's really what it's going to come down to, and politicians are going to acquiesce to that. And there's no better example than what's going on in AOC's district. I saw this online the other day. I thought we'd take a look at this. So this is how voters feel. Obviously, not every voter, but imagine a politician listening to what she's about to listen to, going to react to this, and saying to her voters, "Yeah, we're still going to cut Social Security regardless of what you think." So let's take a listen.
We described a little bit earlier on how Republicans are going to use the debt ceiling to try to attack Social Security and Medicare. But the good news here is that thanks to your all's turning out and everyone else in the country turning out, well, we have a Republican House. We also have a Democratic Senate and we have a Democratic President of the United States. And I know that so long as we have a Democratic Senate and presidency, they are going to be highly, highly committed.
Thank your alls for turning out. But what I try to get across in this channel is it doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't. There is reality. And if we spend more than we take in, we have to cut somewhere or we're going to have hyperinflation. We're going to devalue the currency. Every time you add currency into the system, it just devalues the rest, the currency that's already in the system. So we can keep playing this game, but I know people say we shouldn't cut Social Security. We should cut defense. We should cut other areas. But I would challenge you. I'm going to do a video later on about the percentage that Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid take up. But the mandatory spending is the lion's share of our budget. If we cut out all defense spending, all of it, we still wouldn't have a balanced budget. So keep that in mind. So where is all the money going? Obviously, the government runs things poorly and all that kind of stuff, waste, fraud, and abuse, yada, yada. But it doesn't matter. That's the ultimate thing. It doesn't matter what you think. If you keep voting and saying, hey, I want this Benny without the productivity to match it in the economy, it will devalue the dollars you already have. So let's keep listening.
Protecting Social Security and Medicare from these kinds of cuts. So Biden has a history of trying to cut Social Security. Are you kidding? So okay, so I mean, here's what I'll say. So that Social Security is in danger. So here's the reason why his state.
So if you can't hear that constituent, he's yelling at AOC saying that Biden, his entire career, has tried to cut Social Security. So imagine representing these constituents, which she does, right? And obviously they don't want that Social Security cut, but she's being disingenuous because she's not telling them the whole picture. She's saying, hey, there's these evil people that want to cut Social Security. And I kind of get the idea, like, hey, you want to cut Social Security and then spend it on defense, or cut Social Security and spend it on something else. But that's not what's going on here. What's going on is we spend far more than we take in. And we've reached that tipping point where every extra dollar that we spend has to be printed or taken out in debt by selling treasuries or bonds. All that to mean we're printing it. Okay. So I don't really care what you think. It's math. I wish money grew on trees, but it does not. So what are the consequences of continually printing money and giving it to people. Well, you can do the math there.
So, so I hear you. I hear you. Listen, I hear you. All right, sir. I understand, sir. I understand, sir. I understand, sir. Sir, I understand. I'm trying to answer the question.
How do you think other what do you think other constituents or yeah, other voters around the world, doesn't matter their political affiliation, think of Social Security cuts? I would say the vast majority of people hate it, hate the idea of it. And that's why I say it's not going to happen. So if you're listening to this and you're saying, well, Eric, I think it's immoral to do to cut Social Security. It was a promise that was made. Sure, fine. We'll print it. It'll devalue everyone's dollar. So if you're of that mindset and you think that politicians won't cut Social Security, you better prepare. You better hedge against what's eventually going to come. Because not cutting Social Security, not cutting Medicare, not cutting Medicaid, it means a debt death spiral, which we're kind of already in. So kind of too late. This is just expediting it. So what does that do? It devalues your purchasing power on everything else. Okay. Makes everything more expensive. Okay.
Here's what I will say. Here's what I will say, sir. I understand. I understand. Now, and listen. I hear you, sir. And here's the thing: is that I don't think there's any secret here that the president and I have our political differences. Okay, but what I will say is that with the Dem Senate and also you're despite the fact that Republicans have the majority, their majority is this big. It's really, really, really slim. And they are thinking politically. And when you have a margin this big, and I will tell you, what I anticipate is that in the House, all 212 Democratic votes are going to be a solid no on cuts to Social Security and Medicare, period. My vote will be a no on any cuts to Social Security, Medicare, WIC, EBT, anything, period. So I will tell you.
How many other politicians have that exact same premise? That's fine, right? How you spend money and what you spend money on, again, I've said this before, is a moral or political question. How much money you spend is a math question. They're ignoring that one. So you'll see. Side note, I don't know if you saw, but when she did this, the sign language guy did the exact same thing. This big in sign language is the same. Anyways.
Your congresswoman, for me, it's an absolutely, I will never, ever allow that and work to do everything in my power to not let that happen. Now, what I will say is also politically, this is not an easy move for Republicans to do. And I want to be real about that. They may want to do it, but they internally are very upset that something like that is coming to the floor because their most right of the right wing may be okay with that. But just look right here in New York. We've got, well, first of all, we don't even know if George Santos is going to finish his term, which is going to bring them even slimmer. I'm just keeping it real. That's going to bring their margin even slimmer. You've got Westchester County that just swung by very small amounts. That's going to be tough for a representative in Westchester County to vote to cut Medicare, Social Security, EBT. So it's not as easy as they want it to be. Now, Kevin McCarthy's in a tough situation because he's a weak leader, as we saw from the first. He's a weak leader.
Um, that is something I totally agree with her on. Um, it will be very tough, and I don't see it happening. I just don't. I don't see um, it being politically palatable. And like I said, I'm going to do a part two on this, like what the Republicans are saying, and a lot of them are talking math for the first time. It's a little late, but um, this channel is for people like you. If you've made it to the end of this video, you need to understand that the way politics. I mean, look at the past. We're having this debt ceiling conversation yet again. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think we're going to raise it again, like we have in the last 20 times? I don't know how many, but we've raised it every single time. So all it is a political football. The point is the whole system is going to come crashing down because of these political incentives. It's probably not going to happen tomorrow, but it's you're feeling it today with inflation. And the more we print, the more we hand out productivity that we aren't creating. In other words, handing out dollars that the federal government doesn't earn through taxes, the more we're going to have inflation. So you do what you will with that information. Okay. If you're reliant on things like Social Security, pensions, um, what do you think is going to happen to those if the dollar collapses? They aren't going to be around. Okay. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. See you on the next one. Peace.